So, welcome back to the Armlin YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be doing an unbagging video on different themes revolving around dreams. So, I had the benefit of reading 3 different novels: The Great Gatsby, The Raisin in the Sun, and The Outside Circle. And through these 3 novels, each author decided to implement their concept of dreams in different ways through their characters. So today we're going to be going through this bag, finding objects, and explaining what they represent in correlation to the character and the book that they are chosen for. So let's get started and pull the first 2. We're going to be doing 2 items at a time. Let's pull the first 2 items out of this bag. So look at this. We have the American flag and a picture of the Statue of Liberty. So these 2 objects have to do with the book The Great Gatsby. One of the common or more popular themes in the book Great Gatsby revolves around the American dream. The American dream is an ideology of achieving wealth and status, which is something that every person dreams of, right? And so this was very popular, especially in the Roaring 20s or the 1920s, where this book takes place. But over time, what the American dream represents has changed. But for the purpose of the book, these 2 objects, so the American flag obviously representing the American dream, and the Statue of Liberty representing America in general. I feel like the Statue of Liberty is something that, like, when you see, you think of American, right? And so an explanation of the American dream, how it relates to dreams, is it's the dream of achieving wealth and status, right? And so in The Great Gatsby, through characters such as Jay Gatsby and Tom Buchanan, we see the American dream. Jay Gatsby uses the American dream, or tries to achieve the American dream, for one of his own personal dreams of hopefully winning over Daisy Buchanan, while Tom Buchanan is kind of born into the American dream, having both parents and everything. But basically, the American dream is something that's very idolized and something that every person tries to achieve. And even though it's a popular theme in The Great Gatsby, it's also seen through the other 2 novels. Okay, so moving on from these 2, our next 2 items. So this is actually a Lego minifigure of a Lamborghini Countach, and this is a picture of Daisy. So these 2 objects here represent the dreams of Jay Gatsby, one of the main characters in The Great Gatsby. So Jay Gatsby's dream, first off, was he achieved the American dream, which we mentioned before, but the reason for him doing that was to try to achieve his actual dream of finding his love, Daisy Buchanan, and winning her over from Tom Buchanan. Some history on this was that Jay Gatsby and Daisy Buchanan had this thing. They're Jay Gatsby's first love before he left for the war, and when he came back, Daisy Buchanan was already married to Tom Buchanan, and so Jay knew the only way that he could possibly live a life with Daisy was if he would accomplish the American dream and have the wealth and status that Daisy desires. We'll get into that with Daisy's dream. But first off, this represents Daisy, right? Her name, a picture of a daisy. But this card represents the ending or the failure of Gatsby reaching his dream of finding love again, Daisy. The reason being, in the end, or near the end of the movie, when driving home from a very important scene where there's a big argument between Tom and Jay regarding Daisy, Daisy runs over one of the characters, and this ends up resulting in Jay taking cover for her, and the husband of the wife that Daisy ran over coming and killing Jay. And so this kind of resembles the end of Jay's dreams and the failure to achieve his dreams. But yeah, so that's Jay Gatsby's dream, and those things represent his dream. Okay, so next, let's look. Okay, so our next two objects, nice $100 bill and a rose. These two objects here represent Daisy's dream, Daisy Buchanan. So Daisy, although had her first love with Jay, ends up marrying Tom. And the reason being is because Tom already had the wealth and status of the American dream, right? He was born into it, went to Yale, was a famous footballer. But this really drew in Daisy because Daisy's dream is the American dream, right? To have that wealth and status, right? So the $100 bill here resembles that dream of having the wealth and status, right? Which is why Daisy supposedly married Tom. This rose resembles her charming personality. In one of the scenes, there's a quote of her calling Nick a rose. But just for me, it kind of resembled. That scene kind of showcased how her personality is. It's very charming, and using that and her physical features, she's able to basically marry people like Tom or get the love of Jay, right? Which allows her to achieve dreams such as the American dream, right? I guess you could kind of call it like a gold digger, right? But in that sense of she wanted the American dream, she saw it through Tom, and she used her charming looks and her charming personality to do that. Okay, so now moving on. Okay, so next we have these two objects. So I'm not going to show the label of this, but this is a bottle of liquor and this is a coin. And these objects represent the dreams of Walter Leap, a character in the play or book, The Raisin in the Sun. So, what these represent. Walter's dream was to basically create a life for his family, a good life for his family, be a provider for his family, and be seen as a provider, right? Make his wife and especially his son Travis proud of him. And so this, the liquor bottle, represents Walter saw a potential way of providing for his family through investing into a liquor company, or liquor store, and so through conflict with his family, this resulted in Walter making a decision that poorly outcomed his family, and went against what he was trying to do, of being a provider. This coin represents Walter's pride, and Walter wants to be seen as a good father figure or a good father by Travis. And so there's a scene where he gives Travis a coin for a taxi when Travis's mother Ruth, which is Walter's husband and Walter's wife, told him specifically not to because they can't afford it. So Walter really dreams, and for him it's important to be seen as a good father figure and a good provider for his family. All right, so next two objects. So here we have a stethoscope and we have a lady in an African dress. All right, so these two objects represent the dreams of Benita, which is Walter's sister in the play Raisin in the Sun. The stethoscope represents her dream to become a doctor. During the play, she's currently setting of the play, she's currently attending doctor's school, pursuing a career in education through doctor. And so the reason why this stethoscope relates to the African dress was because at the time, being an African American lady and inspired to be a doctor was rarely seen or wasn't like common. And so it went against the views of society and the expectations. And so in her own way, she was kind of being a trailblazer, but it also went against the opinions and views of her own family members. One being Walter, who thought that, first off, paying for her education was something that the family couldn't do. And secondly, that she shouldn't do it. That she's not supposed to be doing it because of her background and because of the fact that she is a woman. So her dream, I would say, is resembled by these two objects. and her dream was very important in kind of discussing the theme of the 1950s and how society views things like that and how it's over time it's changed, right? And so I think that's a very important thing to look at too. Okay, so our next two objects are a set of keys and a picture of a rat. Okay, so I think I know who this represents. These are the dreams of Ruth, who is Walter's wife in the play, Raisin in the Sun. So, like Walter, Ruth's dream is to create to create a better life for her son, a different life from the one that Ruth and Walter lived or are currently living, right? In the scene or the setting, they live in a really old, rotten house, and so the rat here represents. In one of the scenes, they have to, I think, like get rid of the rats or something like that, and so this is what the rat represents, like being in a rotten old house, and that goes against how Ruth wants to be, having Travis grow up in a better environment and living a better life. The keys here represent at the very end of the film when Ruth's dream comes true and they move to a better home in a better area. Her dream of providing for Travis and giving Travis a better life comes true as they move, and so these keys represent the moving into a new house. So, next. Okay, so we're getting down to the very last couple of objects, but so here we have a hammer, pretty heavy, and we have a picture of a mask. So I think I know who this is. These are the objects that represent the dream of Pete. Pete is a character from The Outside Circle, which is a graphic novel. But Pete is basically the story of the Outside Circle is based on Pete, Pete and his brother Joey, who are both indigenous. Their life growing up in the streets of Edmonton, I believe, and how it's a pretty bad life. They don't have a parent or a dad there to help guide them, and it gets down the wrong path when they start sell drugs, which leads to Pete getting arrested, going through prison, and then eventually making a recovery. And so the reason why this mask is important was because during that recovery process, after he went to prison, he joined the Warrior Program, which basically allows Indigenous people to find like the true inner selves and allows them to relate back to their culture. And so the mask here was basically at the end when Pete discovered who he really is. And I think that's an important thing for his dreams, understanding who he is. And so his dreams of basically providing for his family, because he didn't have a father figure there. He only had his mom and Joey. He always was trying to provide. And so the reason why this hammer, this represents, is at the very end, he builds a house for his baby daughter, who he has at the end, and their mother. And so I feel like this kind of represents not only the turnaround that he had in his life, but also the end achievement of eventually kind of getting a family together and being able to provide through them by building that house. Okay, so now we are down to our last two objects. So here is a picture of handcuffs, and here is a orange ribbon. So these two objects represent the dreams of Joey, which is Pete's brother. Not represent the dreams, but basically represent what happens to his dreams. So Joey's dreams is almost like Pete's. He kind of wants to inspire to grow up like Pete. He idolizes Pete, right? And so when he sees Pete go down the path he does in terms of involvement with gang and drugs, when Pete goes and gets arrested, Joey does the same. And this leads to his imprisonment, which is represented by these handcuffs, right? Although Joey's dream isn't as much talked about, because he's not really a main character in this graphic novel, but that was his dream. And this here represents, the orange ribbon is used to represent Indigenous, especially with Indigenous Day, but yeah, so this represents how the life of Indigenous kids, how as a minority it isn't always the greatest, and it is shown through the book. So that's used to represent this. And so that's it. All right. So if we turn the camera over here, we can see all of our objects. Just to conclude, right, these all are used to represent the dreams that the authors try to portray, or their understanding of dreams throughout the book, each character having their own special sort of dream that plays an important part in the plot, right? Each author did a great job in doing so, and all three books were great reads. So I definitely recommend Great Gatsby, Raisin in the Sun, and The Outside Circle. All right, and so that wraps up this episode of unboxing. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next time.